Welcome to the Start of Scrolls podcast, where we bring you the latest news and discussion from the world of Scrolls. Today we have three of the usual suspects as our guests. We have the Overlord, NRP, and Clever. So we have Clever is a prominent streamer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the Overlord, the most energetic Swede there is, clearly. Welcome.
Thank you.
And NRP, one of the most well-known high-ranking players. Welcome back to the show.
Hey.
Oh, and YouTuber.
Yep.
So we're going to be talking about the future of the game. What sort of strategies that Mojang might implement moving forward, what we might like to see, and what sort of goodies have been spoiled from Mojang employees about what might be coming up later in the next set. So, first topic is the idea of cards being removed from the game. So, since Scrolls is an online game, we have the privilege of being able to buff and nerf cards if they become a problem instead of having to outright ban them. But is it possible that in some situations banning cards or just straight up removing cards might be better for the game, either from a balance standpoint or from other standpoints, just to enable different interactions? What are your thoughts, Overlord?
Well, my thought is it was several questions there, but I will take short with the banning thing. I don't think we ever need to ban a card unless the game is officially released. It has a respected competitive scene, and a card has gone absolutely broken in some patch, then yes, it can be disabled, so to speak, for a time until it is hotfixed. Beside that, however, removing cards, I don't think they have also stated that they are not interested at the moment, at least, in removing any card. It's not on their desire list. I think, in actuality, I don't think cards will ever be removed, but I think it's quite possible that some cards may become so potent over time because it rises more and more cards that synergize with them, that they may be very tweaked to such a point that one could argue that it is an entirely new card. A bit like how they did, but that was just in beta. Not in beta, but in the test server. When they first had Necrogeddon, and first Necrogeddon was just a board wipe, and then they redid the card, so it was this whole summon a bunch of husk thing. So and I will say that is a totally different card than the original Necrogeddon, and not maybe that radical, but things like that might pop up, is what I believe.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that a lot of people might not be aware of or think of when this sort of topic comes up, that Necrogeddon essentially was removed from the game. Never hit live, but it's completely different from the card we have now. And that's similar to the old Machine Divinator, if I'm not mistaken. In a lot of ways, it was a completely different card from how it is now.
No, yeah, it has the whole draw a card when a structure comes into play, and then it's removed. But it was basically that whole draw a card thing was replaced with give more health. So it wasn't totally radical. It was a big balance change.
I would argue that those two cards serve incredibly different purposes. Passing on to NRP, do you have any thoughts on anything that the Overlord said, or on the topic
regarding like just removing cards? I don't think there's ever going to be a need to remove or ban cards because since we're in a digital card game, I mean, as Mojang has done in the past with like recent things to like Crimson Bowl and Kinfolk Veteran, and big changes before were like Return to Nature and what else? And Harvester. Yeah, like Mojang has shown that they are willing to nerf and buff cards if needed to make sure there is balance in the game. So I think they can just keep using that strategy going forward. And I wouldn't really want to see cards being removed and stuff because I think that would be problems for new players because they'd want to be collecting all the cards, and knowing that there's cards that are out there that they can't obtain at the moment I don't think it would be that good. But I think they should just continue their plan of just buffing cards when they need to and nerfing cards when they need to just try to keep the game as balanced as possible.
All right. I'll pass on to Clever Us, or do you prefer Clever US, which is the idea there?
You can just say clever too, potentially. The US is just
Okay.
like a location.
There's a
But
potential there.
In the event that the US is being used, is it us or is it US?
I don't know. I've never thought about that. Clever US, maybe. I think clever US. I prefer that.
Okay. All right. What are your thoughts?
I think. I think it's really simple, right? Like, if the card is really so broken that you can't just nerf it to a place where it works, then you can just completely change what it does. You don't have to like get rid of it completely. So, I really do think that it's as simple as that. Like, there's no reason to remove a card and waste the art and whatever else in the digital context.
Yeah, I have to agree in some ways that it's very unlikely that Mojang, as like a company that puts so much time and money into developing the artwork, etc., that they are going to want to save that. And another example, like what like the Overlord said, was in we don't usually mention Hearthstone on the show, but the Unleash the Hounds change was essentially just completely deleting that card and making a new one. So there's some precedent there as well. Moving on from that, there's a similar concept, but a little bit different, is the idea of a rotating format. So in Magic the Gathering, there's the idea of standard, which is like the most, I think it's about a year, maybe 2 years of cards that are released, and people play using only those cards, and any older cards than that are not used. And this has a number of advantages so it seems like because we're in a digital form, we might be tempted not to do that because of the idea that you can just buffer nerf cards or completely change them. But see if I can get my thoughts straight here. Also, since we have such a small card pool, we're just starting out, there's probably not much need for this yet, but do you guys think that this would be beneficial to Scrolls in the long run? Some of the advantages some of the disadvantages would be that way some people don't get to play with all the cards in their collection necessarily. They wouldn't. There might be some problems with that, but it also allows for the card interactions and deck building options to change over time in a way that otherwise wouldn't be the case with just slight buffs and nerfs. So NRP, do you have thoughts on this? Do you have any experience with this kind of format?
Yeah, I think that like a rotating format would be good for Scrolls, but I wouldn't do it as in like where everything has to like you have to not use old cards like however so often. I think they should just add different types of game modes where there's certain restrictions to like decks and stuff. Because as much as you don't want it, there's always going to be some cards that are just outright better than others, and you're going to see them all the time. And I don't think that's what you want in a card game. I think you want the cards to be more balanced and equal, and it's hard to do that. So having it so you you don't have access to all the cards will inspire like new interactions, and less played cards will be like good. So I do support like maybe changing the card pool that people can choose from time to time, and maybe they can do some different types of like game modes or options to mess with that.
All right. And the Overlord?
I am too newbie on this in the CGG world, so to speak, to actually see the real benefit in that kind of format. I guess I can see some in a real world thing format as you kind of make more stuff happen, so on. But I don't really see it any way really beneficial to have something like that in a computer game. It's like everything that has been available should still be available, unless you have some kind of technical or balance issues with it. And if you want to add more variety, how do you say, more stuff, different stuff to happen in the game, then add more kind of game modes, give some kind of game settings that people can put on, so they can do their own trials, so to speak, like their own custom games and stuff like that. That is the ways to go, and so on. It's not really, let's remove cards. No, I don't see that as I don't see much benefit in that personally. But
I think it has to do with like just the sheer scale of what's necessary to make that work. Like there would need to be like Magic has sets that are like 180 new cards is the set, and so right, so it's something like that. It's like a ton of cards.
I think so. Something like that.
And just imagining that rate of card development in Scrolls, like we couldn't even consider some kind of thing like that until we had that rate, and that it might not even be possible with the size of the team, even at some point in the future. I think that the whole idea of just using a set one set at a time is predicated on the fact that there are just so many cards in Magic. It's ridiculous. There's just a ridiculous number of cards. I think if Scrolls eventually gets to that point, I mean, no purely online card game that I'm aware of has really gotten to a point like that, where there are just so many cards that they had to start dividing it up. But I think hypothetically, if that were to happen, you could have a mode that was like all the cards, and then you could have a mode that was like the recent cards, and that way it would be exactly like Magic.
I will say this: if we come to a point where Scrolls, now we're talking really hypothetical and far into the future. Let's say Scrolls have in the game 5 million different kinds of cards. Then I would say the solution to have these cards obtainable and so on, so we don't get the Pokemon syndrome, so to speak, is it's not to remove the old ones. I will say do some kind of game mode or something where you can, like, you go for bounties. Maybe you can do some kind of bounty quest or hunt quest where you, like, I want to try gain some energy scroll. So you do a bounty quest, get energy points, and for these energy points you can do a cash in and then buy a certain scroll from a certain pack and so on. I'm pretty sure you know what you will get, and you should be able to see all the scrolls that you are missing, so you know what you could possibly get and so on. I think that is the more better solutions for Scrolls. It's not to.
But we're not. I think you're misunderstanding what we're talking about, though, because we're not talking about removing the old cards. We're talking about having, like you're saying, a separate mode that is exclusively like the last 200 cards put into development, and then there would still be the original mode, the mode that exists right now, which is you can pick any cards you want. So there's no removal really. It's more like there are multiple playlists. Like you can imagine that there would be a ladder for just, I don't even know what you'd call, what do they call in Magic? It's like everything, and then a ladder
in Magic
for.
There's two. There's Vintage and there's Legacy, and they're both referred to as. But there's also Modern, and those are all referred to as eternal formats, and that they don't rotate. Cards don't leave those formats.
Well, I would say having some kind of mode where the old sets are not available in that mode, if I understand correctly. The cards are not removed from the game, but it's just not available in that mode.
Yeah, the idea is that
I
they
would
still
say,
exist. You still
yeah,
have them, but you can't use them in a certain context.
yeah, I would say, yeah, sure. Why not have that mode? That's fine. I'm not sure if I would prefer it, but
Yeah, I think
it's like,
it comes down to personal preference. It's like it's all that's why it's so hypothetical because we're thinking about it from this perspective where we have like 1,000 people on scrolls a day, and this kind of thing would only even exist if you had a huge amount of demand to the point where you had people who just wanted to play with the newer scrolls
And a huge amount of cards.
Yeah, you had a huge amount of cards being developed, so that was even a possibility. It's like a completely different world to imagine. So that would be like years and years down the line.
Well, I'm not sure if it's quite as far off as making it sound like, but
what's the rate of like card addition to the game right now? Like Rebellion was
60 scrolls per set, and the sets have been They've been like 3 or 4 since release. So like, 3?
I thought first you would say 60 scrolls per second. I was like, no.
60 scrolls a second.
I did not say that. So.
That's if we just accepted every entry in the scroll competition.
No, but like the point is, it might rotate a bit slower. Like you do need to build up a certain card pool before a rotating format becomes a possibility. But I think there's some, if it's not something that's being thought of very much, like I think there's some advantages to it there that might not immediately be apparent. Most notably, like when a new set of cards is released and you look at them, they have to compete. If you want to put them in a deck, they have to be better than everything else that's ever been printed. And as that number gets larger, the bound on which of those cards can actually be playable becomes less and less and less. So the idea of a rotating format is if you start to remove some of those cards, then more of the new cards become exciting because they're more competitive with the field.
Well, you're talking a little bit about what is called power creep, so to speak. At least you're touching.
Yeah, it allows you to avoid power creep by removing some of the
no, that is not avoiding power creep. That is hiding power creep. If you actually avoid power creep, then you don't have to do something like that.
You're able to avoid power creep by removing some of the powerful cards so that you don't need to go above them. You don't need to creep above the old powerful cards if those cards are no longer legal for play.
I still say that is hiding. Right? That is hiding the power creep. You did power creep, and you're hiding the power creep. That is not avoiding it.
Right.
What do you think about how do you think is the best way to avoid power creep in a game where you have like thousands of possible cards that already exist?
A power creep discussion I could have for like 2 hours, and it's not exactly the topic. But to take it short,
I think your definition of power creep is a little bit different than some other people's, maybe. Just based on your previous comment there. But
yeah, I'm not gonna go to in-depth discussion what power creep is and how to avoid it, but I will just say that there's good ways, and I think so far they've done a pretty good job at it, considering at the same time they have commented like they want some scrolls that could be pointed out. Anyway, I think they're doing quite fine at the moment. I have nothing to really add on that right now, at least.
So the TLDR of this whole conversation is that it would be kind of cool for some people. Some people would like it if we could get to a point where we had rotating sets, but I don't think it's feasible in the near future with the rate of card addition to the game right now.
All right, makes sense. So we have a bit of a free-form question coming up. Is there something that you would like to see coming up soon? I guess I'm sure there's lots of things that people would like to see, but if you could name one thing that you think you would like to see coming in the near future for Scrolls, what would it be?
Just
Arkin?
one thing.
Just one thing. We'll give you
One thing.
Yeah, we can talk about more later. But for right now, one.
It's tough.
Anarchy.
Like you said, there's so many things I would want, but
Let's say feature rather than a balance, any sort of balance thing.
All right, a feature in the game that I would like to see come soon. I think it's really important. I think they should be, like they've said, they're trying to make it easier for new players in the future. I think that, well, not exactly a feature. Obviously, I'd like soon, like, the player base to, like, increase a lot, and I think they can do that with, like, a feature in the game that the, like they already are making, like, making progress with the new pre-constructed decks that, like, yeah, I think they're going to be, like, I don't know, I remember they, like, in the developer ramblings thing, they were saying that they're making it easier on new players in the future. And I think that's really the key for Scrolls going forward, because right now it feels like not enough people are being drawn to the game, and not enough are sticking. So, and I think they can help that by the things they were planning on doing right now. Like, the campaign will probably help, so I'm very looking forward to that. And that's probably, like, the number one thing, and just keep releasing new cards. Adds variety and makes the game more fun.
So what you would like to see in the future for Scrolls is the game to succeed.
In
Well,
essence,
maybe
yes.
we can just take the campaign comment. I think campaign's a
Campaign.
good suggestion.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright,
Take
we'll
the
take
campaign
that.
in there.
All right, Overlord. What have you got for us? I'm sure you've got something cooking up in there.
I can only drop one thing then. All right.
Okay, one thing at a time. We can come back maybe.
Okay, if I gonna take
Maybe later.
one thing, I know this would require a lot of coding, but I'm pretty sure a bunch of people would like it, and that is have a format where you can be 2 people, have a sort of 2v2. That I would really like to see, because it's the fact that it's not a social game where you can play with friends more than against each other, and many do not want to play against each other, often because one is better than the other. So it's not too fun in the long term, because one is just losing all the time. So many often like to play games together, and they like to play together, not against each other. So if that kind of mode would appear, I would very much appreciate it. I have several ideas how we could have that, so to speak, like how would that play out, but it will require tons of coding, that I understand.
I agree with that idea. That's a dope idea. I would like that.
That's so far away. It feels like that's like that would be like a massive I'm not sure what you mean, like, to Overlord, like, but when I think of, like,
I mean,
2
if you
people
have
playing,
a friend, then
yeah, but I mean, like a larger board and, like, a whole new interface, or
Maybe you could. I mean, they
That's
could do
what I
like
said,
some trying with just like
that's
one
what I
board.
said. I have several ideas how you can do it, but
like, I just think that's really
I-
far off right now. But it would be awesome. But
of
Yeah, it
course
would be
it's far
cool.
off. I'm just telling my wishes. I'm not saying what we're probably gonna see in even a year. If this will happen, this will happen like 2 expansions after official release. That is like when it will happen.
All right, let's see what Clever's got in store.
All right, I want to see. Oh wait, Orangey just said it in chat, so maybe I won't like. Maybe
Say
I'll,
it.
I have
Say it,
another
Zara.
one, but I
Say
want
it.
custom games. I want to be able to join a lobby and set who's going first, and set all the rules and how much health idols have and how much time you have in your turns. And then I want to be able to click start game.
That
That's
would
what
be
I want.
wonderful. That sounds amazing.
And that's something that exists in. I mean, even if it's not that like robust, if it's just like a little dialogue and you click the options you want. If it's not a whole
Set
lobby,
if
the
you
way.
Said if you're
But
using the wild rules or not, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All that stuff you should be able to collect all those options. And then my second thing, which is maybe here's
Go ahead.
I'm breaking the rules. I want to see the one feature I really want to see implemented is I want multicolor decks to be viable. And personally, I don't think that the wild system as it currently exists is doing that. And so I want to see more work put into that. I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with. I'm actually not sure what Mojang thinks about the wild system as it's currently implemented. I wonder if we could talk about that. Like, do they think that it's ready to be implemented the way it is, or are they planning on putting some more work into it, or like what do they think about that? Does anybody know in here?
Might be able to talk about that. But let's talk about the new artwork that's being spoiled.
Yay!
So, hopefully that will go up on the stream shortly. But we've got.
We can start with the thunder lizard, maybe.
Sure, let's start with the lizard. Yeah. So there's
it's a lizard.
Yeah. Go
According to ice cream, so is this old news? Who cares? We're gonna talk.
It's a lizard with tusks.
It wasn't mentioned on last week, so clearly it's new. That's how
the lizards
everything
have
that's new would be covered on here. So
Indeed.
it's clearly brand new. Yeah, so we've got a lizard. Looks like it's got sort of orange scales, big tusks. Where does this fit in?
I think they're doing some Gravelock stuff, and I think because first of all, some of this artwork is quite orange, like this one, and this is typical energy orange stuff. So I think it's an energy thing, and it's kind of pointing to Gravelocky things. So I think this is like the Gravelock's answer to what they use as a dog, so to speak. Like it's their pet thing that they have. I'm not sure how that's gonna tie into a Gravelock. Like you cannot have subtype Gravelock on this lizard. That doesn't make sense. So how it types in, how it has an interaction with it, I don't know. But I that is my guess. I think
There's tons of things that you do there.
What about if it's like a mount? Like you play it and then you play a Gravelock on it, and then it like has
that
two
would be
moves.
so
and can,
cool.
like,
I want to see an Gravelock Elder riding one of these and having his ham he throws just as a sort of on a fishing rod to make it move in front of it.
Let's hear from NRP.
Well, do you guys have better ideas than me? When I see this, I just think of some nice creature for energy. All I see from it is a lizard close up on its like face, so not really getting much context from it. It looks like energy because it's very orangish. So
You're thinking energy too, then?
yeah, probably energy. Probably some nice creature that they're getting. But I don't know.
It's probably a free drop.
I think it looks like a 4-drop, and I'll fight you over that.
Or it could be like a spell or something.
Let's bring that as a question about it. Do you think this is a weak or a strong creature? Like, is this a Gravelock Raider or a Gravelock Elder?
It looks menacing. It's probably pretty strong.
Medium.
Look at those buff arms, man. That thing could probably like lift the Gravelock up.
It's very close in. It could be at the size of a dog, so to speak, or it could be the size of a Rhyhorn. You don't really see.
I think Rhyhorn sized is more what I'm getting out of it. I think it's gonna like be able to eat neighboring Gravelocks and then gain their stats.
Now that sounds
like
pretty
you
cool.
could when cooldown is 0, you can consume an adjacent Gravelock and then Rhydon sized electric lizard gains +1/+1.
Breaking news: our high intelligence agency has a faxed a document that says it's called Hairy Blighter.
It's called the Hairy Blighter.
Indeed. So it's related to Harry Potter.
I mean, I don't see any hair, but I guess I'll take their word for it.
I don't see any blight.
It seems a bit.
I'm not sure why it's called Hairy Blighter.
You know what they should name it? Is Shadow Hands.
Is that actually its name?
Chat.
Maybe it's its name. Like I'm Harry Blighter.
All right, let's try to move on to the next piece. But yeah, some connection to Gravelock seems to be the dominating theory.
What is
let's move on to the egg picture next. But yeah, The lizard does seem to that seems to be the dominating theory, is that it has something to do with Gravelocks. It's a bit confusing though, isn't it? Like it's a beast, which sort of says growth, but it's orange, which sort of says energy. But
I like that though. Let's get more beasts in other factions. I don't understand. I don't think those distinctions should be so clear cut. You know.
Decay has a couple. Decay has like the Rod Eater and the Festering Freak and
Exactly.
the Boghound.
I am
And,
dying for it
monstrosity.
to be possible to do a decay energy. No, not decay energy. Decay growth beast deck. That's what I want. I want a decay growth beast deck where you can like get your Rot Eaters, like absorbing all the little.
That's why they should have made.
Honestly,
Wolf, but
Honestly, even though it was a beast, I wasn't too confused, as it looks very much like something that lives like in some kind of desert stuff, and the desert theme is very energy. But about the eggs then.
yeah, let's talk about those eggs.
Okay, eggs. They probably. What I'm thinking. To take it short, they probably spawn something. Like maybe they spawn those lizards.
That would be dope.
But my what I'm thinking is that, is this like a structure with egg that count down and then spawn, or is it a
structure?
spell?
Could be a spell, could be anything.
Yeah, it's what I am not entirely. I'm not sure where I would bet my money on that. I'm not sure if I would bet. I would not bet on enchantment. I don't think this is an enchantment. It's so kind of egg crown. I don't think it's that. But spell or structure? Not sure. What would you bet your money on?
I think it's a structure. It looks like it's going to be. I think the idea that's been passed around that sounds most convincing to me is that it's going to be like a low health structure that if you keep it alive, it will eventually spawn a big scary monster of some kind.
That's
my theory.
I believe Squiddy was posting that as a prediction on the forums as well. And
That'd be pretty cool.
Any other thoughts?
I think it'd just kind of be pretty awkward to see like a big egg on the field. So I have a feeling it would be more like a spell that like I feel like it would like spawn something like pretty cool, like probably like it definitely seems like Ludwig said, or I mean Doverlord, like one of those lizards, because you can kind of feel that like, well, lizards are from eggs, I think, and it's like that deserty feel. So I feel like you're just gonna it's a spell or something. You just spawns like a lizard too. So just my best guess.
Our spy is saying again that the name is called Shell of Destiny. That is a very epic name for a lizard egg.
Shell of Destiny.
Shell.
Like, Shell. It sounds like Shell is the name of the daughter of Destiny, but I don't think that is what it was meant.
I just want to say that it can't be the hairy blighter that spawns out of it, because like things with hair do not come from eggs. Things with hair, mammals usually.
Yes, they do.
Name something with hair that comes from an egg, dude. That's not a
that
a
is
platypus.
so sidetracking.
Birds?
Birds don't have hair. They have like feathers.
They have hair sometimes.
They have little feathers. Do birds have hair?
What are those called?
Feathers are hairs, right? They're just really weird hairs.
And
I'm not going to get far on that theory, am I?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sidetrack to the ultimate.
Yeah, we're getting distracted. Next art. So the most recent one. No Shell of Destiny, please.
No Shell of Destiny. This is not a.
So there's a more recent piece of artwork that was shown on Carnalizer's stream about that looked like a bunch of Gravelocks eating each other or in their den or something like that. We're not sure if they're Gravelocks, but that seems to be what's going around. NRP, have you seen this piece of artwork? Do you have thoughts?
Yeah. To me, it definitely looks like a spell of some sort, because I don't really see anything in the picture. I mean, it could be like a creature, one of those Gravelock things, or structure, maybe like a little like totem thing. But it something looks like probably just a spell that will help the Gravelocks in some way, because I see Gravelocks like feasting on. It looks like maybe that could be like that dead hairy blight thing, that lizard thing. It looks like they could be eating that. So maybe this could be like some kind of attack buff to your Gravelocks or healing, something that has to do with like rallying them together and just making Gravelock decks even more cool. Yeah, so that's my guess.
It's called Beast Feast, apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Beast
the
Feast,
reason
that
I
fits.
doubt that it's Gravelocks is that doesn't look like a Gravelock to me particularly. I mean, maybe I just don't like it. Especially the guy on the right doesn't really look like a Gravelock to me. He just looks
For
like
me,
a zombie.
it looks very much like Gravelock. Have you seen the Raider?
I need to go look really closely.
Looks
to
a lot like the
Gravelock's
Raider
face,
to me, the guy on the right.
Yeah, have you seen the Gravelock Raider? It looks very much like this. This is a damn Gravelock. I'm just not sure the age of this Gravelock. Are these like cubs, so to speak, or are they old? It's hard to tell. Not exactly my expertise.
These are, teenage angsty Gravelocks.
What I like that Gravelock in the background that is looking at them like, that's right, eat the food, eat it, or something.
I think it's gonna have a crossover with Decay, man. It's gonna be like Decay related because it's
Hey, that
dank.
seems
Looks dank.
seems smart.
I mean, they have the
There's no
infected
sort of
Gravelock. The
sacrifice?
infected Gravelock is in decay, so that'd be cool.
I don't think it's a good idea to eat the infected Gravelock.
Although growth also has a lot of sacrifice mechanics, or at least a couple
And
of
it is
them.
called Beast Feast, and beasts are,
Okay, anyway, so let's put it like this. Maybe the lizard thing is a lizard we have on the field, and then we have this that probably can kill the lizard. Maybe it can kill any beast, but let's say it can kill that lizard. What will it do? If it does the exactly same thing as Calling of the Flock, it's really boring, so it probably does something else. So what would that be? Would it be health regen? Does it regen the health on the? But that is Calling the Flock too. So it's like what exactly could you get from sacrificing a beast for Gravelocks with this? Any ideas?
I just
There's
think
been a
this is
mention
all-
in chat. There's been a mention in chat that it looks like the art on Ilthorn Seed. I don't agree with that after looking up their art on Ilthorn Seed.
If it looks like art from what? From where? What did he say? What did it look like?
Elthorn Seed, he said. Elthorn Seed.
Ilthorn Seed.
Yeah, the Wag Shadows said that in chat, but
I think he's tripping, guys.
I think
Yeah,
so
I-
too. Um. Anyway, where were we? Clever. You were saying something about this?
I think that this is all part of the new all lizards all the time expansion, where there's where it's like the eggs hatch a lizard, and then the lizard itself is obviously another card, and then there's the pit where the lizard has died and is being eaten by Gravelocks.
I'm more curious as to what sacrificing your beast will do for your Gravelocks. As I'm kind of blank on the ideas there. As the ideas I have, I feel it's Calling of the Flock, and they are not doing another Calling of the Flock. That seems very not very innovative. To do.
Yeah, that seems like power creep.
Sorry. All right. So, next, let's move on to the next piece of artwork. So there were two pieces spoiled on the Scrolls Dev blog, which were made by Poi. And the first one we'll talk about is, it looks sort of like a stag, a person with antlers on their head. Seems to imply growth pretty heavily. Maybe a sister of the stag or something along those lines. Anyone?
Apparently, it's called the Tamer of the Shrew, which is just like.
Don't believe anything that Blinky says. Nothing that Blinky says.
You gave out our spy identity. You gave out it.
Now everybody knows, man. Now they know that Blinky is close with the developers. It's earth-shattering news.
Anyway,
yeah, no.
I need to ask.
That's not a spy. All right.
I need to ask this.
What's that?
What is a shrew?
A shrew is a small rodent. It's like kind of like a rat, but it's got a long nose. It's like halfway between a rat and a mole.
Okay, I think I know what it is. All right.
We'll pass this one to Clever first, since he's our resident growth expert. Sort of.
I think that, I think it's gonna...
The tamer of the shrew.
I have no idea what it's... I don't know what it's conceivably going to do. Like...
Okay, here's my thoughts, but I'm gonna say it's...
Oh, Blinky was literally trolling us. It's called Vilda the Verdant. I was like, we don't need a shrew-related card.
Sense. Because
he was trolling us the whole time.
These are the real thoughts I have about it, but it's very much a question mark for me, this one. But what I will say is that if my memory serves correctly, this artwork resembles quite a bit with Verdant Veil, so I'm not surprised it is called Wilda the Verdant. But I'm like, so if it has attributes that reminds of Verdant Veil, then what exactly will it do? It won't be a what is it called? A mystic thing for Order. I'm Order player, I should know that. Wings Mystic Warder or something is she called. Whatever. She have very light hands. And she protect from spells in that row. I don't think this will do it. But it might do something, because again, it's called... It probably has some kind of similar attributes to Verdant Veil. But I'm not sure how.
Maybe I mean, they're saying in the chat, maybe it comes into play with Verdant Veil. That would make sense, maybe.
And sure. What have a rodent with it alongside?
NRP. Let's get your input.
Well, I think we can assume it's probably a creature because it's named Vilta. So.
Well,
the Verdant.
Well, we apparently have here some footage of it being actually a creature. So.
Yeah.
Wait, that's this?
The attack animation is...
Why is it called Sister of the Deer?
Because someone just labeled it that when they saved it.
Oh, okay.
I think Scooty probably.
Well,
but
it seems like that attack animation, what it looks like, doesn't seem like it's actually attacking something. So that makes me think...
much damage.
Yeah, it makes me think it's going to be like healing stuff. So, probably another one of like Growth's kind of like healing kind of creature things.
Or maybe that orb like creates an effect. Maybe it's an AoE attack.
I don't foresee it like doing a lot of damage. It just doesn't look like it's doing a lot of damage. I'm not impressed.
Well,
as a Growth player, it doesn't do a lot of damage.
It's not doing enough damage.
Maybe what it will do. I'm just thinking here with that other mystic they have with who also attacks similar with her ball thing in hand. But if that would be overpowered as hell, is that she draws enchantment, maybe this one draws spells, but again that would be so overpowered if she drew spells.
It wouldn't necessarily have to have the draw, but maybe it has another like bonus for enchanted units, like plus health instead of plus attack.
Well,
enchanted units you control get +1 health.
Like, to be fair, with it being similar to Verdant Veil and so on, what I would, if it existed in the game, I would have, my guess would have been that something that has enchantment or that nature, that what she does is give resistance to creatures. That would have been my guess, but we don't have resistance. So unless they are planning to introduce that would not be what she do, but it would be the most logical in her flavor for the little knowledge I have about it, so to speak.
There's also, so we have her name, we have attack animation. Do you guests think that she will be a unique creature because she does have a name? Vilda doesn't. Vilda sounds like a name, and then the Verdant as a title. which fits the naming conventions of the unique creatures that we have so far.
No, I don't think she will be unique. It might. Yes, it has. It has a name, but no, I really don't think, because she really don't look any spectacular. If you have something that it should look quite spectacular, I don't think it's gonna be a unique one.
I don't know how much I agree with that, actually. I don't think that the only uniques should be like super high cost, like mega champion dudes. I could get behind the idea of having some 3 or 4 cost uniques, and if you did have 3 or 4 cost uniques, something that looked a little less overpowering would be reasonable.
Maybe she is high cost. I mean, her unit is not that like large, but then like that attack animation, that orb could be
That looks
doing
pretty
something like
intense.
that could be doing something pretty like board changing. So maybe it's gonna like do some effect that it would not make sense to have multiple ones of these on the field. So I wouldn't mind seeing more unique creatures. So I think there's definitely a possibility, especially since she's named Vilda. So I think it's a valid theory.
Yeah, maybe. Well, in that case, what if she actually had the opposite, so to speak, effect to Word and Whale with that? What maybe it's not the opposite, but what she does is when she attacks something, she gets a purification effect, so to speak, that she removes enchantments and such on the opponent she attacks. Maybe that is a attribute she will have. Because that I would that I would think is cool. That would be cool to have. That's just me.
All right. Cool.
Not a single person.
Let's find out about the. There's one more. It we have what appears to be some sort of ice sorceress. She sort of seems to have the wings motif. By her style, she looks like an order unit. With order having sort of the sub theme of frost, with frost wind and possibly some other spells that I'm forgetting.
I'm just feeling that she really needs something warmer cloth or whatever, because again, that is some red nose. It's apparently very cold there.
And I think growth actually has more, but growth is more frost right now. I think like on that map, like the cold region was more growth, and they have like the frost scales and the frost beards. But
that is an interesting point.
Yeah, but this definitely looks more order. Definitely.
Yeah, I would bet a lot of money that this is order. I was about to say all my money, but no, I would not bet all my money. But I would bet a lot of money that this is order, because this is so wings. For fuck's sake, she has wings.
That's true.
It's a wings unit. Maybe a mystic, like that mystic girl. Maybe it's not wings and a mystic instead. But
First
what
off,
if it's a wings frostbeard?
First off, I want to know if you can, if there are any other ice-themed order cards that I am forgetting.
What did you say?
Than frost. I just said frost breath. I didn't have much of a list.
I don't think it's called frost breath. I don't think it's called frost breath, but I mean frozen wind. I think it's called, or something.
They're like boom, and then everything gets +2 countdown.
Yeah, it's called some kind of. Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's frostwind exactly. No, frostwind. More ice. I think no. I don't think it's much, because that was very much in the testing stage of scrolls, and I think the developers were like, no, we want this in growth, but they did not remove the card. They wanted to stay. So
there was also Frozen Blood. It was like a it didn't the name was changed to Stifle in Advance, but that was the original name, was Frozen Blood, so there's something there sort of, but that was a fan creation. So.
Yeah,
I mean, even if it's crystal, like it could be crystal and not ice.
the frozen blood thing you're thinking about is Stifled Advanced. It was called Frozen
Yes, that's
Blood
what I said,
at competition, but they renamed it to Stifled Advanced.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the
What
theme
if
is
it's
definitely
like-
heavier towards
What if it's more of
towards
that
military.
countdown increase?
yeah,
What if
that
it's
is
just
what
another
I.
countdown increase unit? Like you, when its cooldown
You
hits
make
0,
it
you can
sound-
increase something's
You
countdown by
make
2.
it sound so poor. It's like just another countdown.
I mean,
It's just, you know,
there's a lot of them,
magnetizing
and they
it,
don't
but
see a lot
better.
of play. So
Well,
This
what
is
else
a-
would it do? Like throw like these like ice things like and like deal like 10 damage?
yeah,
It
it's not
seems
gonna
It
do
like-
reminds me a little
damage.
bit of Hired Marksman, but
I
I'm not sure.
honestly, if she just have some kind of, but no, because if she throws her crystals and increase countdown, then that is a magnetizer. Like we have that. So no, that is not it. So I'm having a hard time. Like I can sort of guess what she will do, but it's like, aren't that role already fulfilled? It's every time I do it. Like maybe she, being crystal and some kind of mystic, maybe she increase armor for the row, but it's like, isn't that very much a royal infantryman thing? He increase health, sure, but it's like buffing the same thing there. Um, armor will be better, of course, but you get my point. And increasing countdown on attack, that is magnetizer, and becoming. So I'm not, and for spells is already done, and using the crystal for our own protection is already done. So I am not entirely sure what. Yes, clever.
I have an idea. What if there's some mechanics that they're gonna add in the next set that we haven't even heard about yet, like pillage and whatever else?
Well, definitely, but
Well,
So
yeah,
that
yes,
it could be
they,
it
don't
could be
know
that. It
they
could be
add
that.
all.
What if it's that?
I think
Yeah,
from
they-
the picture it seems pretty clear that they look like projectiles to me, those pieces of ice. Like they look like they do damage when they hit you. Like maybe it increases countdown and does damage. Maybe she can create
So
a
that implies like two ideas. To me. Either one, it's like a ranged unit, or two, it has an ability that can affect something somewhere else on the board, wherever you want.
Maybe those
Yeah,
icicles will
definitely
pierce things.
either a ranged unit or
Yeah,
Or it's order piercing.
Yeah.
This is
Ooh,
my
what a
main
percent.
question with this, and I getting the feeling I know where Cantor is standing on this, considering how he said with the crystal. But this is the main question I have, because it's very hard to predict what she actually will do. But my question is, will she be a attacking unit, or will she be more like that, the mystic girl that is protecting from spells? What exactly role will this girl fulfill? That is what I'm curious about. No thoughts.
well, like you said, you already know what my thought would be.
Yeah, that is
I think
true.
she's gonna
Okay.
throw those pieces of ice and it's gonna hurt.
I
Yeah,
think she's gonna
Not
summon
a
a
lot,
thunder
but it's
lizard.
gonna hurt.
Okay, to put it then. Okay, first you, Clever. So Clever, do you think it will be an attacking unit, or will it fulfill a
I
specific role?
think it will have an attack. I don't know whether its primary purpose will be to attack. I don't think they're going to do many more units like the Wings Order, where it's just like it has 0 attack and it kind of sits there until it does its thing. I think it'd be
So
more
it-
likely to be like the Marksman or the Brother of the Wolf, where it's like it can attack, but most of the time you'll use it in another way.
It sounds like you're thinking more magnetizer over this.
I don't think it's going to be like the Magnetizer. I think it's more
Oh.
likely to be a targeted thing.
Yeah, that could be. And then RP, what do you think? Will it be attacking or not, this one?
I agree with Clever. I mean, not really much to go by in the picture, but it looks like she's like holding some sharp pieces of ice. So probably those are going to be hidden people. And
It could
Okay.
also be a spell. That's the other thing we haven't talked about yet.
Oh yeah, we just sort of assumed it is a
There's
creature.
plenty of spells that have
Ah.
like somebody.
I
there.
don't.
Yeah.
I personally do not think it will be a spell, and they're dying.
I hope it's not.
Cameras.
Yeah, we
Like
assumed it
cameras
was
died
cameras.
apparently.
I
Anyway,
hope that we're still live on stream though. But we should try and wrap up the. I think we have a pretty good idea of our like predictions.
Yeah, I think
So we should try and wrap up the show. Yeah, we have a bit more time. Is a quick question to wrap things up. NRP, if you can toggle your mic or your camera back on, that would be great. Does it seem like development is proceeding faster than it was during the last set, or what do you think from what you've been seeing from the dev team, like Player, Carnalizer, or whoever? Does it seem like the pace has picked up a little bit, or is or is this usual?
To be, in my opinion, at least, it has sped up since the start of the beta release, but I think they were very focused in the beta release to do a little bit other things than just these sets. So it's why it may have been quite slow. Also, after that, nah, I don't feel like they have really sped up. What is tricky with Mojang is like, I do live in the same country as them, so I should not be surprised about this. But damn, they take a lot of vacations. It's very odd vacation. At least they travel away all the time. So it's more that feels like, well, now they were slow, now they were not, because they come to work, they work their ass off, and then all of a sudden, well, we're gonna be gone for a while. Like, okay, sure, but it gives that, oh, this went fast, oh, this went slow. It's like they are, for me at least, they are working in the same pace all the time. It's hard to predict when they are taking their vacations.
Well, maybe that's why maybe that's where that feeling comes from. Yeah, that it is going faster, but it's only going faster because they're not spending as much time working on other things. NRP, do you have thoughts there? Have you picked up any feelings?
I think right now it feels a little bit slow, actually. I mean, I feel like Mojang, every once in a while, they'll like wow you with some like crazy, like very innovative thing, like the wild resources and stuff like that. But right now, it seems like those things come far and few between. I think it will start to pick up again. Like Ludwig said, it feels like there's been a lot of developer sicknesses and like vacations and stuff. So lately, I think the development has been a little bit slow, and so is the game. Not really much has been changing recently, like the past couple weeks. But I think things are gonna start heating up again soon, because a lot of things that they promised to do and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. And Clever, can you wrap us up?
I think it's progressing at about the rate it's going to be. I wasn't around for the last I don't really have a good feel for how fast things tend to go, but I read there's a great post Carnalizer made in a Reddit thread. I might actually just permalink it. I might link it in the chat or something if you want to check it out. But basically, he just said
Cool.
they are intending to at some point put resources into expanding the player base. And they haven't done that yet because they don't view the game as ready for that. Right. So he says the question, why are people leaving, is entirely the wrong question. The right question is, why isn't Mojang trying harder to bring more players in? And the answer to that question is because it is in beta. As a game, the numbers are on the low end. As a beta test, we're doing just fine. And yeah, so he goes on to say that they're going to potentially work on user acquisition more in the future. I think that at some point when they do start putting advertising into it, everything's going to pick up and it's going to be quite populated. And I think the reason for that is that Scrolls is actually just a great game, so the quality of it is going to show once they start getting the word out about it.
Excellent. So, thanks to the three of you for being on the show. We're happy to have been able to bring you guys the show today, even if there were not as many people who could tune in this week as other weeks, perhaps. But yeah, it's been good. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
See ya.